Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders of the Podcast. And we have Nicole Williams from Louisiana Voice and Swallow Solutions here today. And she's going to tell us all about her business. First of all, welcome to Local Leaders.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you here. And folks, when we met initially with Nicole, and incidentally, Cindy Everton sitting in on this podcast. So welcome, Cindy. I don't want to be rude or anything like that. Everybody already knows you, Cindy. So we, when we sat down originally with Miss Nicole, I was very interested to learn about her business. To be quite honest, y'all, I didn't know a whole lot about it. And that is actually what led us to where we are today. I had a little bit of experience with that, dealing with someone very close in my family that went through dementia and Alzheimer's and had some issues with that, where what she does was a kind of a key to a puzzle of how to just swallow, the simple things like having issues swallowing. Mm-hmm. But there's so many things outside of that she does for people, and the value that you bring to the community, to be honest with you, because your type of business is not on every street corner, right? So we're going to get into all that. So before we do, I want you to tell me a little bit. I know you have a large family. You have 2 stepsons, and you're married, happily married, by the way. She put that in her. Yeah.
It's a very
I got a kick out of I am happily. I love that because look, might be some people might not put happily there. So she's happily married. And one thing I really love about you is you have a rescue dog.
I do. And I would have 10 if I could.
Really? You love pets, huh?
I do.
Is it dogs in general or just all pets?
All animals.
Love that. Love that. I just recently got a Dachshund, and we had lost ours. We had a Dachshund for almost 15 years, passed away. And you know how they are. They're like family. Right. And you really don't realize it till you lose one in a late stage when you've had them extremely long time like we did. And so I told my wife, when you're ready for another one, just let me know. And we got another Dachshund puppy last week. And it is like having a baby again. I mean, it really is. It is. 8.5 weeks old and running everywhere. Everywhere. Just like a baby.
And we are having an unplanned litter of English Springer Spaniels. So you can have all the puppies you want. Just give me 10 weeks and you can have them all. She has about 10 to 12 a litter.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
What breed of rescue dog you got?
So I do
or
have
is a mix?
It's a mix. Yeah. I do have a 17-year-old dachshund.
Oh, love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has no teeth.
Yeah.
And yes, but he is healthy and happy.
Wow. 17 years. Wow. That's amazing. Very good. You also like crocheting?
I do.
Yeah. Gardening?
I do when I have time.
Right. That's the thing with gardening. It's the time more than anything. And you're quite the baker. Mm-hmm. The rumor is on the street. What's your favorite thing to bake?
Probably homemade cakes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Very good. Cindy, everything you like to bake?
I love to bake.
What's your favorite thing to bake?
Cakes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a brownie guy myself. I like brownies.
The worst decorator. Do you like to decorate?
I've taken some courses, and I actually go to the Louisiana Culinary Institute and do some of their leisure classes.
Interesting. No, when it's done, I just slop everything on top. I have no patience. Like the sewing, with sewing, if I can't have it sewn in 30 minutes, I'm not doing it. I'm immediate gratification.
I get it.
So I give it, the things that you do take commitment.
Yeah, they really do. And patience. And with what you do now, which we talked about in our little pre-meeting, it requires patience and I describe it as a way. You've got to have a way in the healthcare industry. Not everybody's necessarily made for it. And it's an industry in which people need to feel very comfortable around you, especially with what you do. Now, you opened your business in November of 2020. Yes. So the first question I have for you is, before you opened your business, what did you do prior to that?
So I mainly did home health. Mm-hmm. I did some acute care, so in the hospitals, and I did some outpatient.
Okay.
So a little bit of everything, but always with adults.
Okay. Very good. And obviously in November of 2020, you decided I'm going to open my own business. Interesting time to decide that with COVID. Really at that time, just being at the forefront of everybody's mind, the whole world kind of changed as we knew it. And first of all, shout out to you for having the courage. It's hard to open up a business when everything's perfect, and the world is just on fire with the economy up. When you chose to do it, what led you to that?
So in 2020, in January of 2020, Medicare had made some changes. So patients weren't going to be able to get the amount of services that they were getting before.
Right.
And so in that, speech therapy is normally one of the last things that they get. And a lot of my patients, they didn't get the swallowing assessments that they needed in order to get adequate treatment.
Yeah.
So I just wanted
to. So you felt a calling on that.
Oh, yes. I've always wanted to help those that needed help. So sort of going outside of my comfort area.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about making money. It's just about making sure my patients are getting the care that they need.
Yeah. That's just what I'm talking about with these people in healthcare that you deal with that really, really do it. They don't do it for the money a lot of times. It is for, it's just calling. It's what they feel like, where they feel like they need to be. And so tell me about what you do. What is it? And I'm sure you run into people and you tell them your profession and they're like, what do you do? What is that? So tell us.
So originally whenever I started my business, I wanted to do mobile fees, which is flexible endoscopic evaluation of swallowing. So it's just another way of assessing the swallow.
Okay.
And it doesn't use radiation, so it's really good for head and neck cancer patients.
Interesting.
So whenever I started that, doctors started sending me orders for other things, needing treatment for patients with dementia, cognitive issues, strokes. So for some reason, I was like, okay, well, I guess if we're doing this and I'm not getting exactly what I want for the referrals, then I'll just open an outpatient clinic.
Wow. And mobile services included in that.
Yes.
Is that something that's pretty unique in your industry?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes it really convenient, I would imagine. Well, obviously it's going to increase the convenience, but for someone that needs your services and you go to, is it nursing homes and things of that nature?
So I go to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, LTACs, if they need swallow assessments.
Yeah.
But as far as if they need treatment, so if they've been discharged from home health and they still have transportation issues, I can go to them and it's still considered outpatient, but they don't have to worry about the transportation.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I'm sure, is it something that you were kind of testing or you were just committed to from the beginning? You were just, that was going to be part of what you did.
It was. And the reason I did that is probably about 15 years ago, I realized patients that were born with disabilities, you're given Medicaid. And then so since you never work, then you're always going to have Medicaid. You're not going to have anything else.
Wow.
And so whenever you have Medicaid, a lot of places, they don't accept it. So they don't get the amount of services or the quality of services that they should be getting.
Yeah.
And so that was my biggest thing. I just wanted to make sure that I was seeing people that would normally not be able to get treatment.
I see. And is it typically off a referral basis? So it's doctors, do people have to have a referral to see you? I guess would be my first question.
So they don't. Certain insurances do not require a referral. I think it started about 5 years ago, but you can treat someone with insurance for 30 days before you have to have a doctor's referral.
I got you. Is it only dementia and Alzheimer's and those sort of patients that you typically see, or does it run the gamut? Who else? I guess if I'm a patient and I'm what issues should I look for that, hey, I probably need to call you to let you check that out?
Okay. So as far as just the signs and symptoms, it could be difficulty swallowing. You have a hoarse voice. You may have a history of reflux.
Yeah.
So then your voice is changing, but also uncontrolled reflux can turn into cancer. So that's something that...
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. That's
Yes.
interesting. And
So
don't ignore it. Don't just take antacid for it or
Right.
something like that.
Miranda's dealing with that.
Yeah.
That's what,
Wow.
It's very scary.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that is scary.
So any
don't
kind
ignore
of,
it.
Yeah, cognitive issues, just any, cognitive, voice, swallowing, communication. So if someone has a stroke and they're not able to communicate, we can help them get communication devices, get them trained on them. Children that are autistic, even if they're teenagers, so they're no longer in the school system, we can help them get devices so they're able to communicate.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up, and it leads me kind of into what I want to talk about next. You had shared a story with me initially when we met, and y'all, when I heard this story, I'm like, we definitely need to say this on the show. So I want you to share that with you. Remember the story I'm talking about? Okay, share that with us.
So this was a home health patient. I had gone out, and I want to say it was about 2 or 3 years ago. It was post-COVID. And so I went out there, and the lady, she had right side paralysis, which is normally, so if the right side of the body is affected, it's the left side of the brain that was damaged.
Yeah.
The left side of the brain does control language. And so whenever I saw her, she was not able to communicate. She was very strong. She was able to get around, even though she was paralyzed on one side. She was able to make one sound, and it was like, and nothing else.
Yeah.
And so I had spoken with her daughter, and I was just talking to them to find out how long it's been since she's had a stroke and since she hasn't been able to communicate. And she had told me it was 1977, and it will always stick with me because that's the year that I was born.
Yeah.
So basically, she went 45 years without being able to verbally communicate. She could understand everything people were saying to her.
Sure.
But she wasn't able to express her feelings or what she needed, anything like that. And so we were actually able to get her a device, and within 6 months, she started communicating.
That is unbelievable. I mean,
It's
just
sad.
It's sad. It really is. It's ultra sad, but it also shows the need for people like you on the other side of that, and that's the part of that story that's most important, I guess, for me, and the one that had the most impact on me is that had you not done what you did, she still wouldn't be communicating.
I know. And that's what I try to teach, future therapists whenever they're going through school. If they don't know who they need to contact in order to get the resources that they need to find other therapists and ask them, what's available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what sticks out to me the most in our pre-meeting, and then just thinking about it afterwards, or, reading on your website. And like I said in the pre-meeting, when I was so frustrated because why don't families just reach out and do people just accept it, and where I said, well, why don't you just keep fighting for that answer? Because not everybody is like you that's going to advocate for them.
Right.
And so that's, if I can get anything out on this podcast today, it's find like you just said, find someone else to give you answers. If that person doesn't answer, find another person.
Exactly.
Because the stories that you told the story about the veteran, and that really stuck out to me, how you were able to get him services and way beyond your scope of, and how all that came into be. So it's just so interesting what you've done and how you've just taken it on too much of a broader scope than just voice and swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that, and people are going to be like, well, I want to hear that story.
I know.
So,
Okay.
do you mind sharing that one?
Not at all.
Please do.
So I have a friend who is a smoking cessation officer at Ochsner now. She is a speech therapist. She was basically tired of the system, so she stopped practicing.
Yeah.
And whenever she had met a new patient that he had a peg tube. And so she was talking about the nicotine issues, but she found out he had a peg tube. And so she wanted to see, okay, well, what's going on? How can we help? And he hadn't eaten in 3 years.
Jeez.
And so he had gone to a bunch of doctors. He went to surgeons. There was one surgeon that wanted to really try to help him, but they said there was really nothing that they could do.
Yeah.
And so my friend gave him a business card. and he didn't do anything with the business card. And so my mom passed away a few months ago, but she ran an assisted living center. And so his father-in-law was admitted into my mom's assisted living facility.
Yeah.
And so my mom started talking to his wife, and his wife was telling her how her husband was having problems. And my mom said, well, if anybody can help, it's my daughter. And,
like all good mamas do.
I don't quit with anything. Like, I just have to go, and I don't know why. I just want to make sure people get better and they get the things that they need.
Yeah.
So his wife brought the card home, and he said, oh, well, that's the second time I've seen this card. And she said, okay, well, this is like God, sending us a message. We need to do something about it.
Amen. Yeah.
And so they called me, and I'm actually helping do training courses for fees now. And then so a person that I met at one of the courses is a rep for an electrical stimulation company. And so I was explaining what was going on with the man, and he said, well, I think this would work for him.
Yeah.
And so I went back to my patient and I said, okay, well, you're going to be a guinea pig. I said, but, if it doesn't work, then we're going to try something else, and we'll keep on trying something until it does work.
Right.
And we didn't go up on the intensity as much as we probably should have in the beginning. But within a 5-month period, we had him eating a regular diet, and he no longer has a peg tube.
That's huge.
Yes.
Goosebumps. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, though, me being a veteran, I always find out, okay, have you served in the military? And if you served in the military and all of the medical issues he was having, I'm trying to figure out, are those associated with your military service? And in his case, it was. So I actually was able to get him connected to somebody, and we were able to get him 100% service-connected disability.
Yeah. Wow.
So now
that's an amazing story.
I can't get that story out of my head.
And the fact that you served first of all, thank you for that service. Yes. Military, your military service, and I'm sure you were like that your whole life. You didn't have any quit in you, but it's great when we have former military that did not have quit in them, whether it was before or during. Some people learn in that military service. That's one of the things they develop. Just depends. But thank God for you that you crossed paths, and just an amazing story. You mentioned your mother, and I asked you a question in your questionnaire that was, who had a big influence in your life and why? And you said Mama. And she was a nurse.
Yes. So growing up, she worked in nursing homes.
Yeah.
And so on weekends and holidays, we would always go to the nursing homes and spend time with the patients.
Yeah.
And then later on, she became a director of an assisted living center. And so whenever I was actually going through school, whenever people had different things that they were diagnosed with, my mom would always say, okay, well, you see this person, so if they have these signs, then that's what they have.
Yeah.
So... and she went above and beyond helping people, and I just wanted to do the same. I wanted to do the same thing that she was doing.
Yeah, yeah. You certainly are, and apples don't fall far from trees, right?
I had a professor say that.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true, and sometimes things are in the blood, and you're obviously a very empathetic person, and that runs in families. I believe that. Another thing with you that's kind of a separator, for you is your experience. You have a master's degree.
Right.
And we've already mentioned you've been in the military. I think those things are huge just for businesses, and you're community minded. You're on this show, and
right.
that shows that you're wanting to make a positive impact on your community, and you certainly are doing that. Let me ask you this. So you have a website.
I do.
And people can go to that website, and of course they can learn obviously more about what you do. But we discussed a little bit of, do you need a referral? And you said, no, not necessarily. You don't have to have a referral. If someone is having an issue with either communication or swallowing, and they just want you to kind of check that out for them or see what's going on, because if they have that issue, something's going Do you have to call, or is there a book form on the website, or how does that work?
So they do need a call.
Okay.
Once they are an established patient, you can schedule online. You can fill all the paperwork out online. I do have people that call whenever they have issues, and I never actually see them as patients.
Yeah.
I was on the phone with a girl Valentine's Day, and she was having issues. She was in Bossier City, and she was having a whole bunch of issues swallowing, and nobody was listening to her. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just gave her all of the information that she needed to get the help, where she's located.
I love that. And, you're kind of here's the thing. I call it Dr. Google, but even look, she's like, because how it is. But people get sick, okay, just an illness in general, whatever it is. And the first thing they're doing is Googling symptoms, and then it'll come up with, oh, this is what's wrong with you. And they go by that, and it may or may not be accurate. But what makes you unique is, even if let's say you're a nurse, and you've got some medical training and experience, you don't specialize in like swallowing issues. You don't specialize in voice issues. And that is why you're so important, because you're specific to that. I don't want a heart surgeon delivering my wife's baby. I can't do that, Cindy Everton. But I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, you want someone that specializes in exactly what you're dealing with, and you are a specialist in your field. Something that, it could be this or it could be that. And, your friend that's a nurse at XYZ hospital might say, guess what? She probably knows that answer right off the top of her head. And can tell you exactly what you need to do to start working on fixing that issue.
My major question along those lines, though, is before you get to a fixing point, is there any preventative? Let's say in Jim's father-in-law's case, dementia, or if someone has ALS or something, is there anything preventatively to work muscles to train them, once a diagnosis happens?
It's not preventative, but it just basically, it can slow the progression down. People with ALS, you want to make sure that they know how to use a communication device, that they, that you have like the eye tracking system and everything together before they're going to lose their voice. Right. People with Parkinson's, as long as you do exercises to continue to maintain that strength, you do prolong their ability to eat. They're eventually going to have issues. One patient that I had, we had him eating safely with Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia until he passed, but his body stopped absorbing the nutrients. Okay. So, there are things that you can do. MS, basically anything that there is, you're able to do things to educate the family, to make it easier on them, to make it to where they're able to ensure that they're communicating the best that they can, or that they're eating as safe as they can, even if they're having issues. Right.
And you've probably already answered this, but is there any certain, let's say right now, I feel like I'm producing a lot of saliva, and it's probably because I'm sitting next to you and I'm focusing on swallowing. You know what I mean? I'm thinking I'm sitting here.
So there are certain illnesses where people do produce too much saliva, and it can cause a lot of drooling. So ALS is one of them, Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's, multi-systems atrophy. They have a lot of those. And so there are things that you can do to decrease the amount of saliva that's being produced.
Okay.
So, and that's normally a scopolamine patch, which is ordered by a doctor. It's basically a Dramamine patch.
Okay. So it's just,
and then there are, if people have dry mouth, there are artificial saliva sprays and different types of dental products that basically decrease the amount of dry mouth that you have.
Okay. Interesting.
There you go. And so, look, you move along in your business, 2020 comes and goes, and you're still out there rocking and rolling. I found something interesting in the next question that I asked you, which was, what was the most difficult thing that you kind of had to deal with to get your business going? As business owners, when you first open, and everybody in this room is a business owner, that's the nerve wracking part for you is, okay, now that I'm open, how do I get people here? Right. And I found it extremely interesting in your case that it seems like you did everything the right way. You were focusing on referral sources that would attract clients. Look, everybody should know what you do for a business and how you can help people in need, right? Whatever business it is. Word of mouth is also one of the best referrals you can ever get. People trust what their friends tell them. If they say go to you, they're going to go to you because their friend is kind of vouching for you. And y'all have survived a lot on word of mouth as well as other sources, which tells me you do a really good job and people are referring you to friends and family. That's a great thing. Now, another thing that you said in there, because I don't want to go verbatim on it, but you said that it was very important to educate the community, and that's what we're doing today. A lot of that is just telling them what you do, and you chose Gonzales area as your. Is it Prairieville, Gonzales? Okay, so it's actually Burnside, so that's right in Gonzales. You chose that area, and you're in actually a very well trafficked location. But how hard was that decision to make? Like, I'm sure you were like, do I want to open in Baton Rouge or do I want to open in Gonzales or do I want to open in Livingston Parish? Where do I want to go?
Well, I mean, my 5-year goal is to have another clinic either in Lafayette or Lake Charles. But for now, I think just Gonzales. My mom was raised there. I live in Santa Ma. And basically, there is not a freestanding adult speech therapy clinic in Ascension Parish. They have
that's unbelievable too.
It is. They have physical therapy clinics, a few of them that do offer speech therapy services. And the speech therapist normally has to work at multiple jobs in different locations because you can't get a large enough caseload. Yeah. But I just wanted something that focuses strictly on adults. I don't know how I came up with the name of it. Yeah. And I did just take a shot in the dark, and I think I got it. So I think you did too. And look, I mean, that area has been growing for years. It's obviously still growing with your plants and all of those sorts of businesses out there. I mean, Gonzales has been growing for 20 years. So it was a good call, and a lot of people now moving out that way from Baton Rouge. I could just only see you building. And you said your 5-year goal was to have several locations. Very good. And Lafayette, another good call. Yes. Growing area. Lake Charles, another growing area. So look, she knows a little bit about business. Hey y'all, there's a reason that I podcast indoors. I don't want to be outside in the hot summer heat or even in the cold winters in South Louisiana. And that's why I let Landscape King handle all my landscape needs. They understand that a beautiful landscape is not just about aesthetics, but also about creating a space that reflects the client's vision and meets their specific needs. From the initial consultation to the final touches, Landscape King ensures that every step in the process is tailored to what I want. They believe that every project is an opportunity to create something extraordinary, and they pour their heart and soul into every single detail. And let me tell you about the owner, Joseph King. He loves gardening. As the founder of Landscape King, Joseph takes immense pride in the exceptional work his company has accomplished over the years. They serve customers in Baton Rouge, Prairieville, and all the surrounding areas, including Livingston Parish, and Landscape King has become synonymous with top-notch landscape services. So give Landscape King a call today and tell him I sent you and get a free consult and mock-up of your landscape project at 225-304-2499. That's 225-304-2499 and mention local leaders for your free consult and mock-up of your landscape space. Landscape King, a Local Leaders of Podcast verified partner of the show. I asked you about leadership because you're someone that would know a lot about it. You're not only in
an industry where you own your business, and that's a form of leadership, but you also served in the military, as we've talked about, and you learn a little bit about leadership there as well. And I asked you how you would define it, and you said a person that leads by example, yet ensures their employees are always taken care of before they are. In the military, I was always taught to lead by example. You know, it's funny. The majority of business owners that I see, and I sit down with hundreds of them in here, most of the successful ones, it's always their employees they're concerned with first. You know, they'll pay themselves last. Everybody else gets paid first. And so no one led you to put that. You just put that. And that's typical of leaders.
Well, one
Very
thing,
important.
so whenever I was in the military and I was an officer,
Yep.
so we were always told, you know, that your soldiers have to eat before you do.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that pretty much explains it.
That's good stuff. Now, something that people may not understand about your business, 100%, is what do you do, right? When you came in here and you said you were a speech therapist, the first thing I'm thinking of is at school when you go to speech, right? And they teach you, you know, when you're in elementary school and you have to go to that speech deal with the speech therapy. That's what I'm thinking, you know, off the top of my head, as to what you do. You run into that pretty often?
Very often.
Yeah. Or they just assume you're a nurse and,
Well, I mean, people can call me anything they want as long as I'm able to help them.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's awesome.
Love that. Social media. How important's that been to your business?
I think it's been extremely important. We're doing a lot of social media. We do a lot of giveaways. I think that helps some.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You brought us T-shirts today.
I did.
And a whole mug of goodies.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny, though, because whenever I run into past patients, they're always like, they're wearing the shirts and they're like, I'm representing.
Yes.
And and I had somebody that went to a Lions Club event, and there was somebody that needed speech, and they're like, oh, look at that shirt. And so there's a referral.
That's right.
100%. And I tell people all the time, that's probably the best form of advertising you can ever do is give out T-shirts, because people wear those everywhere. They cut the grass in them. They get a Walmart in them. They get, you know, not Walmart, but of course a local family owned store like Carter's.
I was thinking,
Shame on me.
who are you? What
But
did you do at gym?
They do. They wear them out in the community, and people see that. And that's like almost like a walking billboard for you. But also, if people are willing to wear that and fly your colors, it means they had a good experience typically.
Definitely.
So shout out for that. And we're going to wear ours proudly. How about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I asked you about promotions, and you said you're going to be at the Alzheimer's Services Educational Conference on April 17th at the Crown Plaza. Pretty big conference there. And is it like booths they set up and in these big almost shows, I guess you could call it?
Well, you just have an exhibit hall, and then you have the training sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And CEU credits, continuing education, important to folks like you, I would imagine. Medical stuff changes
Constantly.
Yeah. And very important.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's one of
you
the
look
things
like you wanna
that
say
I
something.
do want to say something. That was something that really stuck out to me in the answering of your questions, is how important it is for you to stay up to date on technology. And when people look at you as just thinking you are a speech therapist, what would, just for the general public to understand, because both of my sons had to go to therapy at school. One, one had a horrendous speech impediment caused by ear issues that we talked about, and the other one was just he couldn't say certain sounds. Squirrel he couldn't say, and he ended up getting it in the end. He was just a little bit older. But what is the difference with someone going to school for therapy and then finally reaching out to you? Maybe they're not having success. Like, where's that? I know it's got to be like on some type of spectrum.
It's, I think just whenever you're in the school system, it's basically speech production, and then you're looking at comprehension and expression. And then and they can have swallowing issues. If you have somebody with cerebral palsy or anything like that, that can be causing some swallowing issues. But as you get older, basically the focus is cognition, some communication, speech if they had a stroke and they're having like slurred speech, but basically a lot of swallowing. Swallowing difficulties or dysphagia is actually a normal part of aging. People don't realize that. And so that is one big, huge thing, I think.
Right.
That I've had so many people in the past that their family members have died of aspiration pneumonia or just, Alzheimer's, and they just didn't know that there was help that they could get.
Right.
And so they passed, and they're just like, I wish I would have known that you were here 20 years ago.
Right. And I think that's kind of the ultimate question that I had is I was blessed that both of my boys grew out of it, or once, my youngest had tubes, he was fine, but I could be in a much different place, so would this be like if, let's say, they were 13 and 22 still having issues, would you be someone that I would go to just for speech?
Yes.
Okay.
And what about like constant clearing of the throat? Is that something, you get the people that sometimes they'll say it's just habit. They all the time, but sometimes there might be an underlying issue. Would you agree?
Yes. So that normally would be either post-nasal drip or acid reflux. And so whenever a person has acid reflux, it basically, you have acid from the stomach that burns the lining of the esophagus, and it can actually burn the vocal cords. And so a lot of times whenever people have reflux, they'll just have constant throat clearing. And that's definitely something that needs to be looked at, because it might not be anything. It might just be a habit, but it could be something a lot worse.
Would that be something you would definitely look at?
It's something that I would look at, and if I saw things, then I would just refer them to the doctor that they needed to in order to get treated.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I know someone that does that, and they're listening right now. So
It's not me.
it's not Cindy. It's not Cindy, but they know who they are. And what about like coughing constantly? Just constant coughing. I noticed that with a lot of our older crowd. It seems like church or something like that. They'll cough a lot. And they might just be sick, a lot of them, but again, is something.
Management of secretions. So if you can't manage your secretions, and this sounds crazy, but if you're not able to manage your secretions, most likely you're not going to be able to manage, food or liquids. And so you can get your swallow assessed, and then we can basically say, okay, well, you'd benefit from exercises. We have to exercise the muscles in the throat like we have to do with the legs and the arms. But it could be just compensatory strategies, tucking the chin, or just modifying the diet, maybe thickening the liquids a little bit, chopping up the food. And that doesn't mean that it has to be permanent, but just until we can get the muscles strong enough in order for them to be able to go back to where they need to be.
Yeah. And there's actually supplement, I don't know what you would call it, but it's called thicken it, that you can add to foods and things like that that will make it thicker for people with that issue.
Yes. And a lot of people, though, they don't like that one because it's extremely grainy.
Yes.
So they don't want to follow the diet that they're prescribed. They do have a gel thickener. It's called Simply Thick.
Yeah.
And you put the smallest amount in it, and it doesn't make it grainy. I always want to try the things that I'm giving my patients.
Yeah.
And if you do like the thicken it or whatever, they have one in a yellow can. And if you put a little bit in and you drink it, it basically tastes like sandy water.
Yeah.
And you're more thirsty after you drink it than before.
Ugh. Well, there you go. But they have a gel one, so you have an option out there. Other than that now, and I don't know if back when I was familiar with that, if that even existed. Very interesting. Now, we talked about social media a little earlier in the podcast, but so you have a Facebook, you have an Instagram, all those sorts of things. I'm sure if they search your name, it's going to pop it up, but we're going to make it even easier than that for you. What we're going to do is in the description of this podcast, we're going to link your Facebook and Instagram, whatever else you have out there. But the most important thing is your website.
Yes.
Because it is we went and looked at the website. It's very nice and easy to follow. Explains
Definitely.
in detail what you do and those sorts of things. So we'll also link that. So if you're driving right now and you listen to this, no worries. We're going to link it in the description. And Cindy, you got some fun facts, I think, for our favorite podcast here. So let's go through them.
You ready? Mm-hmm. If you purchased a yacht, what would you name it?
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
And the reason is because I love turtles. So whenever I'm driving on the road and I see a turtle, I have to stop to move it over.
Do you really?
Every single turtle.
Oh, that is awesome.
And I have taken some turtles to LSU that have had cracked shells.
Yeah.
And they fix them and they let you go bring them back where you found them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So on that.
Well, there you go, turtle folks out there. I bet you didn't know that.
Well, I want to bring
them to LSU. Yeah. Now I'm going to be stopping at every turtle. I'm serious. I like turtles too.
I love turtles.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a fun fact that's not on here, but what did you want to be prior to what you are doing now? Because I love this story.
Okay, yes. So I wanted to be a veterinarian. Whenever I went to LSU when I was in undergrad, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I could never see myself putting an animal to sleep. So therefore, I just needed to find something else to do that I could.
Well, you knew that would be required at some point.
Yes.
And the last question is, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Okay, so this is a fun fact. Lancashire, England, because my maiden name is Townley, and there's actually a Townley castle there.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I think you're related.
About 12.
You have to be just
about 12 generations back.
Knock, knock, I'm your cousin.
And I knew there had to be a story to that one because you were so specific. You didn't just say England. You said a specific place in England. And, well, I'll have to check that out because every time people do that particular fun fact, if I'm not familiar with it, I go check it out and look at it. I've seen a lot of beautiful places that people have come up with that way. So,
for sure.
Very cool. All right. Well, I guess that about wraps up another one, huh, Cindy Everton?
I think so. I just wanted to, again, thank you for your service. But I also didn't want to interrupt Jim at the beginning of the show, but I love your focus on the elderly and that your mom influenced that in you because this is a segment of society that's lost and they don't have a voice. And that's why, they don't have a voice a lot of times, even if they still have a voice. They just give up, pushed aside, not, respected. They're taken for granted, left alone sometimes, And so I honestly, cry saying it, I feel better knowing that there's somebody like you in this world because I know if I need someone, I'm just calling you, and it could be for any position, and you're going to be like, no, Cindy, you need to go find this person. And I know that you're going to help.
Definitely.
And that has given me peace since I met you, and I mean that. That is why we have our guest here today, Miss Emma, that is studying to do what you're doing, and it just is amazing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that was sweet, Miss Cindy.
I meant it.
And the turtles love you too.
They do.
As well. That's right. Well, thank you for coming on today. Look, y'all, we're linking all the information you need in the description. We're going to have the website as well as the social media. You can go check them out. Give them a like on Facebook. Share them with anybody you think may be in need. If, God forbid, you have somebody struggling with one of the issues that we brought up today, refer them to Louisiana Voice and Swallow Solutions. And I don't want to say if she can't help you because I get the feeling you can help anybody with anything. I feel like if I break my leg, I'm going to come see you.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
But don't do that, actually. But she would absolutely help you as much as she could. I definitely have that feeling, even in that situation. Thank you for coming. Did you have fun?
I did.
All right. And for all of you out there, please continue to like, comment, subscribe on this podcast. We're coming up on 1 million downloads. We're really, really close. And all of that is because of y'all out there and the businesses that we cover. Has nothing to do with me or Cindy. But we sure do love it that we're able to feature businesses here every single week. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman. And who are you?
I'm Cindy Overton.
With Local Leaders, the podcast. We'll see you next time. Love your community and support local business. Thank you.